All right, let's dive into a way of thinking that could honestly change your entire career. It's called gear theory, and it is all about making yourself so valuable at work that you become practically indispensable.
But first, let's just get right to it with a question I think a lot of us have asked ourselves. You're putting in the hours, you're doing good work, but that raise you were hoping for? It's disappointing. So what's going on? Why aren't you getting what you feel you've actually earned? And that feeling, that frustration brings us to what we can call the workplace struggle. You know the one. It's that feeling like you're on a hamster wheel, running hard, but the scenery never, ever changes. Does any of this hit a little too close to home? You know, those annual raises that don't even seem to cover the rising cost of, well, everything. Or feeling like you've just completely stalled out in your career. It can often feel like the only way to get a real pay bump is to pack up and jump ship to a whole new company. You know you're worth more, but trying to prove it feels like shouting into the void. Well, what if there's a kind of secret language being spoken? A hidden logic that the top performers and, more importantly, your employer all understand, but they just don't talk about it openly. We're about to pull back the curtain on that. And that hidden logic is exactly what gear theory is all about. Seriously, think of it like putting on a new pair of glasses that lets you see your job, your company, and your own value in a completely different light. So, what's the big idea? Gear theory says you should stop thinking of your company as a team or a family. Instead, picture it as a giant, complex machine. And every single person working there, including you, is a gear in that machine. And what's the one and only purpose of this machine? To keep running and make money. Period. Now, I know that sounds a little harsh, right? But internalizing this is so important. That whole "we're a family here" thing, it's usually just a nice way to build loyalty. But when it comes down to it, a business is an economic engine. And if you want to succeed, you have to understand how the engine works.
Because as soon as you see the company as a machine, you start to see this huge disconnect, a fundamental conflict between how employees and employers think about, well, everything.
And this is the absolute core of the theory. As an employee, your logic is based on entitlement. You think, hey, I show up, I work hard, I do my job, so I deserve a good salary. But the employer, they're working from a logic of investment. To them, you're a line item, a cost, a gear. Your value isn't about your effort, it's about your function. How much revenue do you help this machine produce?
And get this quote from the source material really just puts it all out there. Some employers don't even see your salary as something you've earned. They see it as a grant, something they've given you out of the goodness of their heart to do a job, and they kind of feel like they should be thanked for it. It's a wild perspective shift.
Okay, so that leads to a really practical question, right? If you're a gear in this giant machine, what happens when you're not a perfect fit for your little spot? From the machine's point of view, it's not personal. You just become an inefficiency, a problem. A gear that doesn't fit right causes friction. It means another part of the machine has to work harder to pick up the slack, or the whole thing just slows down. And in the cold, hard logic of business, an inefficient part gets replaced. All right, I know this is all starting to sound a little bleak, but hang on, because this is where gear theory becomes your secret weapon. This is where we flip the script, because it shows us that growth isn't about working harder, it's about fitting better. So first, let's talk about the trap we all fall into, the wrong way to grow. Let's say you're a programmer and you go out and get a project management certificate. You're thinking, look at me, I'm ambitious, I'm developing myself, I'm more valuable now. Then you go ask for a raise. But from the machine's perspective, all you did was add some new teeth to your gear that don't actually connect to any other part of the machine. The skill is great, but it doesn't help your current gear do its job any better. And this is such a game-changing insight. It's totally backwards from what we're told. For most successful people, they don't get the certificate to earn the promotion. No, they get the promotion first, and then they get the certificate or the training to perfectly fill the new, bigger role they're now in. The need comes before the skill. So what is the right way? It's a simple 3-step process. 1, figure out the exact, precise shape of the space your gear is supposed to fill. What does the business need from your specific role? 2, pinpoint the exact skills that would make you fit that space perfectly with no gaps. 3, pour all of your energy into developing only those skills, making yourself the most efficient, most essential version of your gear that you can be. So let's bring it all home. This is the final section, and it's all about taking this theory and turning it into action. This is how you become irreplaceable. This is how you take control. So how in the world do you figure out the exact shape of your gear space? The answer is so simple it's almost funny, but I promise you, almost nobody does it. You don't guess. You don't assume. You just ask. This is it. This is the key that unlocks everything. You walk up to your manager and you ask this exact question. What do you expect me to add to the business in my current position? Not how can I get a raise? Not how am I doing? This question right here. And why is that one question so powerful? Because it changes the entire conversation. Your manager is now forced to give you a blueprint for your role. You get a crystal clear roadmap for what to work on. And most importantly, you shift the focus away from what you want and onto what the business needs. And that's the only language the machine actually speaks. And once you have that blueprint, and you've spent your time and energy becoming that perfect gear that fills the space flawlessly, the whole power dynamic shifts. You're not asking for a favor anymore. You're simply stating your value to the machine's bottom line. You can ask for your reward with total and complete confidence. So that's it. That's gear theory. It's a simple, powerful way to see yourself not just as someone who has a job, but as an essential, custom-designed component in a much larger system. The theory is in your hands now. So the only question left is, how are you going to design your gear